A stunning piece of jewelry was brought by the guest that once belonged to her mother.
Well, my mother used to collect loose stones when she traveled around the world, and she was in Australia. And she decided she wanted to buy a black opal while she was there.
The appraiser expresses appreciation for the stone, describing it as a very attractive and fine example. The focus then shifts to the setting of the opal, which is designed in what's called a ballerina mount.
You see the undulation of the diamonds, just like a tutu. But this type of mount was much more popular later in the in the 60s and 70s into the 80s.
The appraiser elaborates that this style of mounting became especially popular during the 1960s through the 1980s. This suggested that the ring was likely made or set during the 1970s, consistent with when the guest's mother might have had the stone mounted. The piece displayed intricate craftsmanship, with fine detailing and high-quality smaller diamonds encircling the opal.
So I just love the combination. We don't know who actually made it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have everything one wants in a black opal.
Despite acknowledging that the opal itself lacks the most highly prized color flashes, the overall design enhanced its charm and value. In a retail setting, the ring could cost around...
You probably have to pay $12,000 to $15,000 in a retail setting to buy this ring today.
Holy outback.
The vintage Rolex watch takes the spotlight, a timepiece of enduring elegance and precision craftsmanship.
This is a watch that belonged to my father, and I inherited it from him when he passed away about 30 years ago. I believe my mom told me at one point that it was given to him. He was an accountant, and it was given to him in lieu of cash for some work he did for someone.
The piece was identified as a Rolex Daytona, reference 6263, dating to around 1980. The appraiser mentioned that Rolex still produces the Daytona model today, though newer versions differ slightly in design.
The Daytona is a watch that's very well known, very well coveted. One of the big names regarding Rolexes you might hear is Paul Newman.
Sure.
Great actor, he also raced. He had a watch that had a bit of a different dial, though just as this is the big red dial, his watch is referred to as the Paul Newman dial.
Okay.
This particular watch belongs to the sports watch category and was crafted in Switzerland. It features screw-down crowns and chronograph pushers for starting, stopping, and resetting the timer.
Reset on the side of the watch. On the bezel, you have a ring that you could calculate the speed of an object.
Okay.
So that helps with racing.
It was noted that vintage Daytonas are highly collectible and often command greater value than their modern counterparts. The watch exhibits a distinguishing feature, the big red dial, named for the bold red Daytona script printed on the face. Discussing its condition, the appraiser cautions that any cosmetic restoration could significantly diminish the watch's value. Although the piece is currently not in working order, its desirability and rarity still contribute strongly to its worth. In a retail setting, the watch could be valued at...
A retail value would be $70,000 to $90,000.
Okay. Not running?
Not running.
Wow. Okay.
This bronze sculpture, acquired about 10 years ago, stands out for its striking form and timeless appeal. The piece was identified as the work of artist Malvina Hoffman, signed and dated 1928.
She was an American artist born in 1885 and died in 1966. She had a very long career with a lot of success.
The appraiser provides an overview of Hoffman's impressive career, describing her as an American sculptor. She was celebrated for her ability to capture movement and emotion in bronze. Hoffman created numerous full-figure representations and portrait busts of notable figures from the worlds of art, music, and culture. She gained particular recognition for her bronze sculptures of dancers such as Anna Pavlova. Through her mastery and keen eye for detail, Hoffman built a distinguished career that balanced artistic beauty with human authenticity. Turning attention to the sculpture itself, the appraiser praises its excellent craftsmanship and condition. The piece reflects Hoffman's remarkable technical skill and expressive artistry. Considering the artist's enduring reputation and the work's fine preservation, the auction value suggested was...
The condition is fantastic. If I had to put an auction estimate on it today, I would say between $2,000 and $3,000.
That's nice. That's nice.
A guest brought in an Air Jordan sneakers display that originally came from his grandmother. The grandmother had acquired the display years ago when a local shoe store went out of business.
How much did you pay for this?
I didn't have to pay anything for it. I just kind of saved its life because I thought it was pretty cool.
The appraiser then discussed the significance of Michael Jordan and the history of the Air Jordan brand. Michael Jordan was one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He led the Chicago Bulls to 6 NBA championships and became a global sports icon.
Michael Jordan signed a deal with Nike for $2.5 million, which was a ton of money in 1984. It was a 5-year deal, and they started making shoes for him.
The appraiser identified this specific display as being from 1993, the year of the Air Jordan 9. The design included words associated with Michael Jordan, printed in multiple languages to reflect the brand's expanding global influence.
So here are the words here in English: skill, creative, sport, grace, freedom, intense, power, and dedication.
Displays like this were typically produced in limited numbers for in-store promotion, making them rare finds today. Because of the piece's connection to the iconic Air Jordan legacy and its scarcity, it held strong collector appeal. The appraiser estimated its auction value at around...
If I was going to put an auction estimate on this, I would put about $500 to $700 on it. It's a pretty cool gift.
That's really good.
The guest presents a violin that he purchased about 30 to 35 years ago at an auction sale.
35 years ago at an auction sale, and I waited till the last day when they had various things that they couldn't sell, and that's when I purchased it. Roughly $300 or $400.
Inside the instrument was a label that appeared to read 1745. The appraiser explained that this label is likely a reproduction.
Sometimes people will put a label in there of approximately the age and whatever they think it is. It's just common practice. It's easier to sell a violin that has a name than one that's just kind of an unknown instrument.
Upon closer inspection, the appraiser noted that the violin's characteristics did not correspond to instruments from the mid-1700s. The wood, varnish, and craftsmanship instead suggested a slightly later period. Based on these details, the appraiser concluded that the violin was more accurately dated to the early 1800s. The piece was identified as a German violin, most likely made in Mittenwald, a region long celebrated for its fine violin-making tradition. It remained in good condition, with only minor scratches and light wear that could be easily restored. Importantly, the violin still produced a warm and resonant tone, reflecting the quality of its construction. In view of its quality construction, tonal warmth, and period appeal, the appraiser estimated its retail value at...
Today would have a retail value between $12,000 and $15,000.
Wow, that's pretty good investment. That's very surprising. I had no idea.
A pair of ornate porcelain vases took the spotlight, admired for their beauty, intricate decoration, and apparent age.
We purchased these from a local estate sale. Thought they were pretty, ornate, looked old. We did do some research, and we think maybe they're Sèvres.
It was suspected that the pieces might have been Sèvres porcelain, a prestigious French brand renowned for its fine craftsmanship and elaborate artistry. The appraiser examined the vases closely and immediately praised their exceptional decoration. They were adorned with painted portraits, likely depicting historical figures.
I'm sure they do represent specific people in history, but without quite a bit of research, it would be hard to know exactly who.
The appraiser particularly highlighted the laurel wreath motifs descending from the necks, adding to their richness. The condition of both pieces was remarkably good, indicating that they had been well preserved over time.
A comparable pair we saw was about $4,000 for the pairs.
The market isn't what it used to be for these. As you can imagine, it's really not the taste of anybody under the age of 50. But nonetheless, these are the highest end of the spectrum, and that market is still strong. There's still many people in their 60s and 70s and even 80s that are still buying this level of porcelain, and that's keeping this level as high as it is.
Due to the absence of markings, it was uncertain whether the vases were definitively Sèvres. However, the quality and detail of the work strongly suggested that they were. Confident in their Authenticity, the appraiser attributed them to Sèvres porcelain and dated them to the mid-19th century. Given this, the estimated auction value was.
An auction estimate, in fact, would be in the range of $5,000 to $7,000.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Thank you for bringing them in.
Wow, thank you.
A decorative glass bowl was showcased, treasured for its rich family history, Mexican heritage, and exquisite craftsmanship.
Great-grandfather, they lived in Puebla, Mexico.
In Mexico?
Right, and he was an architect.
Special and charming family piece, blending artistic history with sentimental heritage. The item was also an excellent example of Art Nouveau design, a movement known for its organic shapes and flowing lines. The appraiser explained that the bowl likely dated to around the turn of the 20th century. It was identified as Letz-style glass, referring to the famous glassworks from Bohemia. The particular piece was not signed by Letz, which prevented confirming it as an authentic Letz manufacture. Despite this, its design and quality were fully consistent with that school's artistic influence. It displayed a beautiful form and was in excellent condition, capturing the spirit of its era. Given its age and artistic merit, the retail value estimated was.
I would say retail price, it's around $2,000.
Nice.
Thank you for bringing it.
Well, thank you. Hey, I'm excited.
Yeah.
A striking belt buckle was presented, admired for its bold design and fine craftsmanship.
My husband was in Santa Fe and he purchased this from a gallery there, and he believed it to be by Charles Loloma.
Charles Loloma was one of the most celebrated Native American jewelers of the 20th century. Upon examination, the appraiser confirmed that it was indeed an authentic piece. He emphasized Loloma's extraordinary influence on contemporary indigenous art. He was regarded as a preeminent figure among Native American jewelry artists.
Design, composition, and color. These are the three standards of his work.
The buckle featured a loop at the back, designed to secure it to a leather belt.
The loop that would hold the leather belt is missing. Very easy to replicate what Charles typically used. Inexpensive restoration, not important at all.
The piece bore Loloma's distinct signature and artist's hallmark. He's known for innovative treatment of jewelry, utilizing natural ingredients. Stylistically, the appraiser dated the piece to sometime in the 1960s or 1970s. Considered a historically significant work of Native American art, the retail value was estimated at.
I think on a retail basis, this would sell for $10,000.
Wow.
The guest presented a Navajo silver squash blossom necklace that had been in her possession for many years.
My friend lived in New York, and she said it belonged to her mother's godmother, and I've had it now for many years. I was told it's Navajo and that it's very old, and that's basically what I know.
The appraiser dated the necklace to around 1885, placing it in the early period of Navajo silver making. Navajo silver making was a renowned Native American art form known for its intricate craftsmanship and deep cultural symbolism. It had begun in the mid-19th century after the Navajo learned silversmithing from Mexican artisans. Each item, whether a bracelet, concho belt, or necklace, was handmade. The particular piece likely originated from the Gallup, New Mexico area.
And the warmth of your piece, which I adore, is the fact that this was made from smelted coinage. They would use the coins of the U.S. until that was deemed illegal to deface coinage. And they also used Mexican pesos.
The necklace reflected the work of a master silversmith, as very few artisans at that time produced jewelry of such skill and elegance. The crescent-shaped Naja pendant on the necklace carried symbolic meaning.
The crescent itself comes from the Moors tradition of repelling the evil eye.
The appraiser emphasized that this piece represented the infancy of Navajo silver making, combining both artistry and cultural heritage. In terms of value, the historical artifact's auction value was estimated at.
You would get between $5,000 and $7,000 for it.
Really?
A decorative folk art. Cane was presented, admired for its unique design and craftsmanship.
My father has a small collection of canes. He used to just keep them by the door in a holder.
The cane's plaque was finely engraved with an inscription, which dated the piece to 1896, 1897. The cane was notable for its intricate carvings, including a small carving of the Alamo at the top.
And then the whole shaft is covered with these wonderful scenes. I don't recognize what they are, but I'm guessing they're probably from Italian operas.
The appraiser emphasized that such detailed carvings, featuring multiple figures and action, made it highly desirable among folk art cane collectors. One of the carved scenes on the cane depicted a produce delivery wagon linking the piece to the family's local history.
I started going back into the census records, and what I was able to find was that Daniel Lovici immigrated to New York, from Anzi, Italy. And it's a little town today, still in existence, of about 1,800 people.
However, the exact identity of the craftsman, G. Donato Lovese, remained unknown. The cane was described as being in excellent condition, though it showed minor wear. Traces of green paint remained, and it was missing a small screw-on metal tip at the bottom. The appraiser highlighted the craftsmanship and historical significance, noting that it represented a classic immigrant story of America through folk art. Based on its artistry and condition, the cane's auction value was estimated at.
And I would think in a cane auction, to people who collect folk art canes, it might bring $1,500 to $2,500.
That's excellent to know.
The guest presented 2 powder horns, part of a larger collection of 8 that had been handed down through their family.
My grandparents handed them down through the family. They came from probably sometime during after the Revolutionary War, because
a powder horn was a container typically made from cow or buffalo horn, used historically to carry gunpowder. Many were decorated with carvings, maps, or names, reflecting both function and personal style. The appraiser began by examining each horn, noting how they told a story and connected the present to the past through material culture.
Right. Well, we're going to start with this horn right here. This one was carried by a guy named Daniel Hayden, Marlborough, which is Marlborough, Massachusetts, 1758, during the French and Indian War period.
It featured carved soldier figures executed in a naive and crude style typical of the period.
It's wonderful cow horn. These are spoke-shaved, and then they probably are carved with a penknife and inked, and these areas are carved and filed to get these points and to file this down. It's all one piece.
The second horn was attributed to William Churchill of Plymouth, Massachusetts, dating to 1779.
That's where he was from. He enlisted at the beginning of the war, and I found his records stating he was in the service at this time, 1779. It would have been used pretty much at the height of the American Revolution.
Today, powder horns were recognized as collectible artifacts that reflected craftsmanship, frontier life, and early American history. Emphasizing both their monetary and historical significance, each horn could fetch.
I would put an auction estimate for each horn at between $8,000 and $12,000.
I've seen them pretty expensive before, but not that much.
Yeah.
This table clock had originally belonged to the guest's father-in-law's father, an antique collector.
His father was Anglo-Irish, came over from Ireland at the end of the 19th century and lived in New York City and loved antiques. And this was a piece that he bought and he had throughout his whole life. He loved it.
The clock was marked Weeks, London, likely referring to Thomas Weeks of Coventry Street, London, a renowned clockmaker active around 1800. The appraiser explained that Thomas Weeks specialized in clocks made in the French taste, which were unusual for London makers at the time. This particular clock was notable for its sweep second hand in addition to the hour and minute hands.
The clockmaker that would make a clock with a center sweep second hand, he was sort of showing off.
The case was made of satinwood with ebony accents, originally gilded, though the finial was now missing.
You'll see what we call the escape wheel. So we call that an outside the plate escapement, and it's what we call deadbeat escapement. That was a superior form of escapement. Notice also the quality of the engraving on the back plate of the movement.
The clock had been intended as a timepiece without chimes, reflecting the gentleman's table regulator style. The appraiser praised the clock as a mechanical marvel from a time when artisans worked with rudimentary machinery and limited light.
Right. You'll see what we call the escape wheel. So we call that an outside the plate escapement, and it's what we call deadbeat escapement. That was a superior form of escapement. Notice also the quality of the engraving on the back plate of the movement.
While some minor repairs could have restored full function and aesthetics, the clock was in very good condition overall. Given its historical significance, the retail value was estimated at...
I'd expect to see this clock sell for about $6,000 retail.
A rare weaving by Peter Collingwood, bought for $10, is worth thousands. The appraiser called it one of the most unusual pieces in his 20 years on the show, as he usually dealt with paintings or drawings. The guest explained that he had bought the piece at an estate sale, initially thinking it was some sort of macrame. After finding a name and number on the bottom, he and his wife discovered it was made by British artist Peter Collingwood. The appraiser confirmed this and shared that Collingwood was born in London in 1922, initially training to be a doctor before discovering his passion for weaving during his national service in Jordan. Collingwood even made looms from broken deck chairs.
We know that. And during his national service, he was stationed in Jordan. And there he discovered his true passion, which was weaving, to the extent that he used to break up deck chairs and make looms out of them.
And was deeply influenced by a Bedouin tent hanging he received as a gift. After returning to Britain, he studied under renowned weaver Ethel Marriott, who, despite finding him dull, noted his rare interest in weaving. Collingwood innovated weaving techniques in the 1960s, creating works called macro gauzes. He mentioned that most of Collingwood's pieces had been sold in the UK, sometimes fetching up to $34,000. The guest joked about keeping the weaving safe from their cats, to which the appraiser advised hanging it high to avoid damage. While examining the item, the appraiser said,
Would you be happy to hear that at auction it would probably fetch between $5,000 and $8,000?
I would like to hear that again, really.
Unveiling a treasure with ancient origins can be a mesmerizing experience. This stunning urn, inherited by the guest from her late parents, has been a centerpiece of fascination and admiration. Placed prominently in the foyer on an alabaster plant stand, the urn truly captures one's attention. Its design has roots in the first millennium BC China, where similar bronzes served as wine vessels for notable officials. History of China. The serpentine handles and gold splashes, achieved through the intricate process of fire gilding, signal opulence and historical richness.
On top of the bronze itself, these gold splashes that you see on the surface.
Yes.
Created between 1780 and 1810, this piece pays homage to the archaic bronzes beloved by the Qianlong Emperor. Adorned with 6 iterations of the Chinese character for long life, it embodies wishes for longevity and prosperity.
And it's the character for long life, called shou. And so you have long life in 6 forms, in 6 iterations.
The underside bears a 4-character mark, indicating its creation for the Jade Hall within the Imperial City. Imperial City, China. Large and impressively crafted, such a piece is a rare find in the market today. This urn is both a historical marvel and a testament to imperial luxury, and at an auction, it would fetch
between $30,000 and $50,000.
Oh my God. Well, thank you very much.
Pottery isn't just a vessel, it's a window into cultural history and artistic revival. The guest's grandfather was captivated by the American West. He traveled extensively, journeying 800 miles with Native American tribes such as the Navajo and Hopi in 1916. During these travels, he collected various items from these cultures.
These are really beautiful examples, and I would attribute them as Nampeo.
Oh, really? Oh.
The appraiser inquired about the items. The guest responded, believing they were likely of Hopi origin. Adjacent to the Hopi First Mesa, there was an abandoned 16th century pueblo. Nampeo, born in 1859 and deceased in 1942, lived there. Inspired by pottery shards, Nampeo revitalized an ancient pottery style. Her work became renowned for its grace and frequent use of birdwing designs. Although unsigned, the appraiser confidently attributed the guest's pieces to Nampeo. The items were dated to approximately 1916. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
Canteen is charming, absolutely charming, and at auction, it put an estimate of maybe $1,200 to $1,800 on it.
Oh, wow.
The bowl has a lug for hanging, and when they would hang them in their own homes, would carry a price of $2,000 to $3,000.
Oh, wow.
The center bowl is as elegant as they can be. It has great form, beautiful color, exquisite painting. I would place its value of $12,000 to $14,000.
Wow.
So,
Well, thank you. That's great news.
An icebox was presented that the guest's mother-in-law had received from her cousin's estate. The appraiser was excited, as they've never encountered an icebox collector before. The box exhibited detailed construction, including lead lining, a box for ice, and a functional drain at the bottom. All the features are typical of a real icebox, making it quite interesting. Given its high level of detail, the appraiser concluded that the icebox was likely a salesman's sample rather than a toy. Salesman's samples were miniatures used to demonstrate full-sized products to consumers. The guest was pleased with the information and the appraised value of the item.
If something like this were to come up at auction, I would say this one's probably about a $2,000 salesman's sample.
Wow, that's great. Thank you very much.
This guest exhibited a pair of paintings that had been in her family for decades.
And how far back in your family do they go?
We don't know that exactly, but it's possible that they purchased them from him.
The paintings might seem like a simple arrangement of fruits and flowers, but each element was carefully chosen to convey a deep meaning. These exceptional pieces were beautifully done in 1865 by John F. Francis. Francis was an American painter, known primarily for his still lifes. Although Francis typically painted on canvas, these particular works are rendered in oil on wooden panels.
Now these are oil on panel. Francis usually painted on canvas, but for the smaller works, he usually would use panel. I guess he felt more comfortable.
One of the paintings, the one closest to the guest, portrays dessert subjects, featuring a glass cup containing milk, a spoon, and a plate full of red fruits. The painting closest to the appraiser depicts fruits, such as 2 apples on a plate, an apple and some berries on the tabletop. Moreover, the back of these paintings reveals that they are signed and dated by the artist. Interestingly, these paintings still retain their original frames and are in pristine condition. Given their condition and the fact that the original frames are still intact, this pair of paintings by John F. Francis would fetch an auction price of
$100,000 for the pair.
Fun.
This beautiful landscape painting is magnificent and grand. It was drawn in 1926 by an artist named Adolf Schultz. He's regarded as the founder of the Brown County School of Artists. This painting is considered by many to be one of his best works. It is an oil canvas painting called Looking Over Nashville, depicting scenes in Nashville.
Schultz spent most of his time in a town called Nashville, Indiana, which is south of Indianapolis.
Interestingly, many of his sought-after works are those depicting Nashville.
At the Hoosier Salon, which was just north of Indianapolis, it was an art exhibit once a year, and it was juried, and he was well known for his exhibitions there.
Adolf's interest in painting grew because when he was younger, he frequently drew landscapes. There's so much attention to detail in this masterpiece. At a suitable auction, this beautiful oil-on-canvas painting would retail for
You could reasonably expect a value of $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay, very good. That would be good.
This collection is unlike anything you've ever seen before because it's called a parure. A parure is a bracelet, necklace, and earring set. This set was particularly famous in Europe during the early 19th century. However, this particular set was crafted in 1940 by a company called Joseph of Hollywood, headed by Eugene Joseph. Eugene was an expert at jewelry design, and these items are stark confirmations of that.
But before the Depression, or during the Depression in the late 20s, he moved out to California and he started working in jewelry design.
In contrast to what many think, the stones on the jewelry are glass, not gemstones.
And he did a special type of matte finish on his jewelry. So just like we have these bright lights here, it doesn't reflect the Klieg lights and the lights they use to light the sets in the movies.
His signature is inscribed on the jewelry, and it's a remarkable piece because his jewelry was used in famous movies like The Wizard of Oz. At auction, this parure, made in 1940, because of its exhilarating beauty, would sell for
I would say they would be valued at $1,500 to $2,000 for the whole set.
Let's travel back to the world's preeminent leadership institution, West Point. West Point is so important in America's history that it was the most important post in America, according to George Washington. This archive talks about the class of 1861, which contained many important individuals. In particular, it describes what it felt like to be a new recruit at West Point.
The class of 1861 actually graduated in two groups. There was a group in May and a group in June, where your great-grandfather graduated. There were 34 people in the second class.
This archive is important because it's quite rare to read about the day-to-day lives of soldiers. We also have a letter of appointment signed by Abraham Lincoln. The archives contain pictures of important professors and even that of General George Custer. At an auction, this rare and immensely valuable archive would sell for.
We'd probably have an auction estimate of between $8,000 and $12,000.
Oh, wow.
For 16 years, this guest worked at NASA as a test director on the Zero-G airplanes.
Started in this program in '62. I went to work for NASA, which was then called NACA at the time, in 1950.
He showcased several autographed photographs that he collected during his time at NASA.
We occasionally flew celebrities. Probably my favorite celebrity was Bozo the Clown. The real Larry Harmon flew with us one time.
One notable photograph is of the Vomit Comet, which features the signatures of 16 different astronauts. This photograph was given to the guest upon his retirement in 1977. Another displayed photograph is of Alan Shepard holding the American flag, which he later planted on the moon. Alan Shepard was an American astronaut and the first American to travel into space. We also have a signed photograph of the guest working with Marsha Ivins. Ivins is a retired American astronaut and veteran of 5 space shuttle missions.
And I worked with her on several occasions on the airplane. And when I left in 1977, shortly after I left, she became an astronaut.
The guest also brought a photo album containing both signed and unsigned photographs of astronauts. Additionally, there is signed photographs of Gordon Cooper on display. Gordon Cooper. Cooper was an American aerospace engineer, test pilot, and United States Air Force pilot. This collection of photographs has remarkable provenance and symbolizes America's space exploration. Altogether, they'll be worth.
We would put an estimate between $35,000 and $45,000 at auction.
I am just speechless. I thought maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, maybe something like that.
This chair represents the exquisite creativity of Irish chairmakers. The chair is called an Irish side chair, and it was made in the 18th century. It has several details that qualify it as an Irish chair, particularly the suspended tassel. The chair represents the style of chairs made during the 1850s. It's also made from the strong and durable wood, mahogany. The chair also has a set of heavy knees, which doesn't mean the chair has hair, but that it has a mane.
All right, and the other thing that was a clue for me is the face in the front. That's a heraldic face. Normally you'll see lions' faces and things like that.
Right.
The chair is called a George II side chair because it was made during the era of King George II. This chair is a beautiful Irish masterpiece, and it would auction for the price of...
A conservative insurance value would be $15,000.
Wow.
This toy represents one of the earliest technological toys made by man. It's a toy created in 1926 by a company called Turner Toys. These toys are highly sought after because of the uniqueness put into crafting them. It was made from pressed steel, which is likely responsible for its longevity. One of the most interesting things about this bus is that it is extremely rare. The toy has been in existence for over 50 years, and aside from a few issues, it still looks in top quality. During its early years, not only children had it in their collection, adults also wanted it. This toy is a beautiful representation of early vintage toys, and it would auction for the price of...
This is a minimum $5,000 to $6,000 bus.
I'm going to have to do a lot of...
This basket cannot be used to pick fruits in the garden, but it is nonetheless special. For one reason, the basket is quite small, which is unusual to see. The basket is called a leather key basket, and it was created in 1850. Before key holders were created, Americans used key baskets to hold keys for large residences.
And they're very typical for southern states. These are very typical around the 1850s.
The basket has different engravings on it as a way to style and beautify it. During the 1850s, key baskets like this were produced exclusively in Virginia and North Carolina. Key baskets represent a unique form of American folk art that is still in existence. At an auction, this leather key basket would retail for the price of...
We think that this definitely is worth $20,000 to $30,000.
We'll take better care of it.
Guest brought a vase onto the show, which she inherited from her maternal grandmother. This delicate vase was beautifully crafted by René Lalique. Lalique was a French jeweler, medalist, and glass designer, known for his exquisite glass art creations.
We have here, underneath, R. Lalique, France, and that, of course, stands for René Lalique.
The vase is signed on the underside by the designer, marked R. Lalique, France. This piece is a large frosted glass vase named Salmon. It features a repeating pattern of salmon swimming in synchronized formation. The fish are rendered in high relief, giving the vase a three-dimensional texture and depth. In its perfect condition, we can expect this vase to command the value of...
I think a good auction estimate on this would be $20,000 to $25,000.
My goodness. Something I'll treasure even more now.
Showcased on the show is a vintage guitar made by William B. Tilton.
The piece that you brought in today is exciting for a few reasons. It's an early guitar from about 1865, made in New York by William B. Tilton.
Tilton was an American inventor and luthier who began manufacturing instruments in New York in 1853. The guest acquired this piece from her mother, who had inherited it from her own mother.
Very odd, very offbeat. As we see inside with his silver plaque, Tilton Improved New York. There's a bar that runs from the upper block straight on through the body of the instrument. Again, his invention.
Made circa 1865, the guitar exemplifies the early design of American guitars. Observing the top, we can see how the grain runs diagonally across the guitar. Inside, there is a silver plaque bearing the maker's name, and a bar extends from the upper block through the body of the instrument. This guitar also features a Victorian inlay pattern around its edges, a peghead machine at the top, a silver medallion near its base, and an engraved silver tailpiece. Considering its age, the condition of this piece is remarkable. At auction, this guitar would sell for...
If I had this at auction, I'd probably be estimating it at about the $1,500 to $1,700 range at auction.
There's something mesmerizing about how functionality and artistic elegance combine in this piece of ceramic. This guest inherited the item from her husband's family, and it has been in her house for 30 years.
My mother-in-law says it should be at least 50 to 60 years old. That's as long as she can remember it being around in the home.
Upon observing the back of the piece, we discover the maker's mark, indicating it was created circa 1920 to 1940.
We're able to date the charger because of this Imo du Longwy to the 1920 to 1940.
The Longwy factory. The ceramic charger features a vibrant green background adorned with flowers and leaves. It has an enamel glaze over the soft paste pottery, giving it a glass-like effect. We can also discern influences from Asian and Japanese art in the design. Each Longwy charger is handcrafted, showcasing the skill and expertise of its artisans. This beautifully crafted ceramic piece exemplifies the craftsmanship of the maker and is estimated to be worth...
In terms of value, I would say if I saw it priced at about $1,500 to $2,500 in a shop, that's what I would expect.
That's great.
The guest brought a unique pine needle cap around 40 years ago. The item was acquired from an antique store on Payne Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota, for about $25. The cap had the initials FVFC, which the appraiser suggested likely stood for Volunteer Fire Company. It was believed that the cap potentially originated from the coastal southeast region of America. The appraiser explained that similar items were traditionally made for utilitarian purposes. These were mostly crafted by both the Gullah people of South Carolina and Native Americans. Made of pine needles, the cap had a coiled top design and was likely created between 1900 and 1920. While pine needle bowls are relatively common, hats are extremely rare. Due to its scarcity, the cap's auction value was suggested to be.
I would conservatively place an estimate of $400 to $600 on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went significantly higher.
The guest shared an intriguing story about the watch she presented. It was given to her father, who served as the president of the University of Alaska System in 1972. The watch had undergone servings at the Rolex Service Center on the East Coast. The appraiser explained that replacing parts like the bracket or the dial could affect the watch's value. Fortunately, the guest had kept the watch entirely original, which preserved its value. The item was identified as a 1969 Rolex reference 6263. It features a 2-button, 3-register chronograph, a lightweight riveted oyster bracket, and a manual wind mechanism. Additionally, it exhibits stainless steel construction and a water-resistant oyster back.
While he was flying and doing aerial survey and such, knew this watch in 1972 would have been $325, $350.
The appraiser also highlighted the watch's reverse panda dial as particularly valuable. Given its excellent condition, the appraised value was suggested to be.
In today's market, this watch, retail, right now will bring $85,000 to $95,000.
Okay. The sword was showcased by the guest that had been in her family for years.
The stories that I was told, it was from my great-great-grandfather, Jerome, who was a part of the Civil War.
It belonged to her great-great-grandfather, Jerome Nicholas, who served as a Civil War soldier. The appraiser confirmed Jerome Nicholas's service in the 96th United States Colored Troops.
The 96 USCT that your ancestor was in was formed from a lot of enslaved men who then, once they were freed, once the army had come through, joined the Union Army.
Identified as a Confederate Bowie knife, the sword featured a false edge, a half-tang, a one-piece grip, and a simple counterguard. The accompanying tinned iron scabbard, with remnants of black paint, was still intact. The appraiser suggested Jerome likely acquired the knife during his service, possibly as a battlefield trophy. Its southern origins, crude craftsmanship, and appearance were typical of Confederate Bowie knives. Given the remarkable story, the appraiser placed an auction estimate of.
Conservatively, we would put an auction estimate of about $3,000 to $5,000. It could go up a little bit more than that with the story now that we have with it.